What is Tesla? Are they a car company? Are they an energy company? I've seen a lot of discussion on this, and I think the fundamental advantage that Tesla has is the ability to leverage the technology in building battery packs, from working with Panasonic very closely to build cells, to integrating packs themselves. With Tesla's battery and powertrain investor day coming up in the first quarter of 2020, I think it's vital to understand the fundamentals of batteries going into that investor day. The previous investor day, the autonomy investor day, focused very, very heavily on computer science. So I didn't really fully understand that. As someone with a background in mechanical engineering, I didn't fully understand that until afterwards, looking at it in hindsight and learning about it around that. Well, as an investor, we got to make sure we're on top of our game. We got to be ahead of most other investment firms in order to actually make money. So it's important for us to be able to understand the technology before everyone else does. And if it's going to be anything like the previous investor day, they're going to hit us fast and hard with a lot of really important and in-depth information about batteries and about how batteries work, which is why I'm creating this series to prepare myself and to prepare the audience, to prepare you guys for the Battery Investor Day. To do that, I went ahead and picked up this book, Linden's Handbook for Batteries. And this book is an engineering perspective, an engineering guide to the fundamentals of all things batteries. This video series is going to be all about going through this book. It's a 1,000-page book. We're not going to go through every page, but I want to kind of summarize all the major points because there's a lot of things that I've learned just by reading the first few pages that changed my entire perspective on Tesla's company and on the entire industry. So that's what this series is going to be about. This is the first intro of the video. And really, I just want this to be the sort of the why. Why batteries? Why? Why Tesla? What makes them unique? And I think after reading the first chapter, I kind of figured out what I imagine Tesla to be. I don't think they're an automotive company. They're something a little more. I don't think they're just a tech company. I don't really think they're just an energy company. I think there's something more. And that I learned in kind of the first few pages. In the introduction of this book, it goes over a new perspective on business analysis. And what it is thermodynamic analysis. So it's more of an engineering analysis. It's all about energy and how energy changes the way you design a system or product. Since everything loses energy, whenever you store energy, whenever you transfer energy from one state to another state, let's say, for example, you're storing, you have gasoline, that's stored energy, and you convert that into mechanical energy to drive your car, there's inefficiencies there. And those inefficiencies are called entropy, and that's energy that you lose in a system. And essentially, it's looking at the macro scale and saying, where in the system is it more efficient on a fundamental level? And you look at the entire supply chain, everything, look for how is it inefficient and how can we improve those efficiencies, and making a business, letting those thermodynamics guide your analysis and your business model. Because the argument is this: you have all this energy. The wasted energy is wasted money. So you want to be able to minimize that wasted money. Obviously, it's not exactly the scales perfectly, because let's say electricity may be not a perfect scale of the amount of energy stored in gasoline or hydrogen or other different things that you store it. So ultimately, what it comes down to is choosing the best overall efficiency across the board. And that's the analysis that they do in this book on the macro scale. So if you take a look at it, this book takes a chart from the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and it's on the energy consumption of the entire US in 2018. The book actually has 2016, but online on the website you can get the book's in black and white, and this one's in color. It's a little bit easier to kind of see what's going on here in color, so I pulled the one off their website. And this is the one we use for the analysis. So what you can notice here is that the energy consumption in 2018 was 101.2 quads. Well, what the heck is a quad? A quad is a quadrillion BTUs, or British thermal units. It's like an imperial system of measurement. It's what it measures for this analysis. For reference, one quad is about 300 terawatt hours. So for a Model SP100D has a 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. The entire grid uses 300,000 terawatt hours, which 1 terawatt hour is 1,000 gigawatt hours. 1 gigawatt hour is 1,000 megawatt hours. 1 megawatt hour is 1,000 kilowatt hours. So that's a lot of energy that we use. To simplify the analysis here, what we're going to do is we're going to round down to 100 and just say that this is 100% of the energy that we're using in a given year. And it makes it a little easier because every single number on this chart is just a percent of the 100. So this will tell us the total percentage of energy that's used in this process. So if you look at all on this left side right here, on this left side, we have solar, nuclear, hydro, wind, geothermal, natural gas, coal, biomass, and petroleum. These are all the sources of energy. This is where we draw energy from. These are all the different types. And this will tell you the percentage of the US grid that each one contributes to. So for example, in 2018, solar was only about 1%. Now this was up a decent amount from the previous year. I think it was 0.7, and now it's almost at 1. So it's up a decent amount, and it's growing. But all these things are changing over time. And you have a lot of different processes that go into this. So as you can see, natural gas and petroleum are the two biggest contributors, coal, and then nuclear, and then everything else is pretty small. Then looking off, these all branch and tell you where this goes, where this type of energy source is plugged into. So as you can see, 11% of all energy generation is natural gas and goes to the electricity grid. The electricity generation, you just think of that as the grid. I'm just going to say that it's the grid, so I don't have to say electricity generation every time. 38.2% is the grid. That's of all the energy, and that's plugging in solar, nuclear, hydro, wind, geothermal, natural gas, coal, biomass, petroleum. All that funnels into electricity generation. And of that, about 12.9% of all the energy generated, so a portion of this gets funneled into different industries. So as you see, about 5% goes into residential, 4%, a little less than 5% goes into commercial, 3.2 goes into industrial, 0.03 goes into transportation. That would be like electric vehicles. And as you can see, these are all the energy uses of every different industry. Well, you have transportation, industrial, commercial, residential. So the transportation industry makes up about 28% of all of the energy generation. All of the usage of that goes through there, 26% through industrial, a little less than 10% for commercial, and a little less than 12% for residential. Now, if you add all this up, this is only about 75%. Where is the other 25%? Well, it's right above here as the amount of energy that's lost in the grid. So as you can see, only about 12.9% is used, 25% is wasted. And that all funnels into the rejected energy category. All that is wasted energy. All of this right here is the actual amount of energy that's implemented and used, usable work that's actually generated. A lot of this is lost to heat. Some of it's lost to just not in use. So you have residential, which is pretty evenly matched. Most of the energy gets used, about 7, 4 doesn't. Twice as much gets used in this one as 6 and 3 in commercial. In industrial, it's about half and half. And in transportation, about 80% of all the energy that's used in the transportation industry is lost to heat. And only about 6% is used. All of this adds up to only about a third of everything that we have is used, and about 2/3 is just wasted. So if I was looking at it as an engineer and as a businessman, saying, how can we improve society? And how can we minimize all the amount of energy that we're wasting in order to maximize money and use that as a way to increase the value of everything that we have? Well, there's two big areas that stick out. There's the transportation, and then there's the grid. So transportation is, like I said, is about 80% wasted. Why is that? Well, the internal combustion engine is super inefficient. It wastes a ton of energy. And if you really think about it, Your car's running. If you have a gas car, you come up to a stop sign or in stopping the traffic, your car's still running even when you're not moving. If you're just sitting in your car letting your air conditioner run, your car's running. It's wasting gas, and it's burning that, and it's just wasting it to heat. It's not turning it into usable work other than into spinning the alternator to keep the battery from dying. The rest of that's all being wasted. So when you get stuck in stop and go traffic, you're just wasting tons and tons and tons and tons of energy. So, like, let's go ahead and take a look at, so what's a good solution to that? How do you minimize the amount of wasted energy? Well, you change the game on what the standards are of performance. So in a normal car, you have miles per gallon. That's kind of the metric that we use for efficiency. When it comes to you bring in EVs, and that changes the game. You're no longer looking at it from miles per gallon perspective. You're looking at it on an energy perspective, on a miles per kilowatt hour. So that's where the focus is, and the less energy you use, the more money you save, the further you can go. And when you build a system around minimizing that energy per mile, you actually are reducing the amount of energy that you're wasting, which is why you have thousands of kilowatt hours of energy inside a gasoline car. Most of it's wasted. You have 100 kilowatt hours in a P100E or 75 kilowatt hours in a Model 3. All of that is being used. As much of that as possible is being used. So the solution that Tesla's offering for the transportation issue is electric vehicles. The solution that Tesla's offering for the transportation industry is electric vehicles. But that creates a whole new problem. Let's say you reduce the amount of petroleum you're sucking in, and you increase the draw you're pulling from the grid. Well, now you're pulling from this thing that's also very, very inefficient. And you have these major inefficiencies in the grid, and that's a big problem. And a lot of people who don't like electric vehicles argue that you're just running on coal-powered cars or natural gas-powered cars rather than efficient cars. And there's some points to that, because there's a large percentage of our grid is pulling from these sources. So the question is, how can we now reduce the amount of energy loss in the grid? We'll look at and examine this, what ways we're being inefficient in the way we produce, the way we use energy. Well, like in cars, everything's on demand. So you have these power plants running consistently. And I know that's a little bit more complicated than this, but in a general idea, you don't get power if there's no power plant running. If there's no source, if it's not energy's not being ready to be supplied to you instantaneously, you flip that switch, there's no power coming to your thing. Everything's pretty instantaneous, but there has to be something, a source drawing that energy, whether it be a geothermal or wind or natural gas or coal power plants. It has to be running in order for you to get power. So when everybody turns on their light switches and their ACs, and there's suddenly a massive uptick in demand, you get blackouts because there's not enough power plants running and enough of time to actually supply that power. So what's happening right now is there's a lot of power that's being generated. There's a lot of natural gas and coal that's being run and used. That's just wasted because you need to have it just in case. You have to spin up a power plant. You don't want to spin it up because there's a delay on the amount of time it takes to spin up. So how can we minimize that excess? Is there ways that we can take advantage of that so we don't have to be running those all the time? And the easy answer to that is, large-scale battery storage. In Ontario and Pomona, and kind of near where I'm at, there's large-scale battery storage, and those offset the amount of time that it would take to run up the peaker plant. But right next to the Ontario one is the peaker plant. That'll run up if the power ever goes out. So how do we fix this issue with the efficiency of the grid? There's one big answer, and that's large-scale battery storage to offset overages. The question then becomes, how else can we do it? Well, there's a lot of energy that's lost transmitting power across long distances. So what if we were able to minimize the amount of energy that's transmitted long distance? That would be the solution of microgrids or home storage and home energy generation, solar type of solution. So in very sunny areas and sunny climates, you can very much minimize the amount of energy that's needed and maximize the efficiency of all these other things. So that's why, so if you look at it and you look at Tesla's business model, what you realize is that in both of these major and the most efficient areas, they're attacking head on with the main solutions to the problem and one of the best ways to solve these problems. And in doing so, you can see for yourself that people in the end save money because there's less of a cost for electricity per mile you drive than gasoline, because you're not wasting as much. And for places like Australia, they're saving tons of money with these large-scale battery storage solutions. And there's other companies that do it. It's not just Tesla, but Tesla's one of the most prolific ones that's very publicly fighting for this to become a mainstream thing. And there's a lot of talk of people of Tesla trying to like build a smart house. I don't think that's really the case, because if you look at this analysis, there really isn't that much of energy that's being wasted on the residential side. The big loss is in the grid. So I think it might even be smarter maybe for an industrial size support system, but I think that their main focus, this is a big chunk they're going to try to challenge and try to minimize. I think that's where their main focus is going to be. It's in transportation and electrical regions. And if you look at one of the interesting things that Elon Musk said, is that his energy business, maybe even more than his transportation business, because look at the available energy that you can try to bring back. And if you compare the two, you can save more energy on this in the grid. So it's very possible that this could end up saving them even more money, or making them even more money, because people want to switch to this rather than building any new plants. So really what it comes down to en masse is, I would like to argue that Tesla is not necessarily a energy company or a tech company or even really a car company. I argue that they're an energy efficiency company. Their core business model is all about using technology to make a more sustainable site. That's their mission statement, is accelerate the transition to sustainable energy. This is all about sustainability. See, this many losses is not sustainable in the grand picture. You're losing tons and tons and tons of energy and money in this way this is set up. Like, for example, the California grid's failing because it's out of maintenance. And the amount of money and resources it would take to rebuild certain parts of the PG&E doesn't have the money to actually build it. So ultimately it comes down to, how do we improve the society? And that's with all the different solutions that they're providing. So that's one of the big reasons I would argue, and I like Tesla because I believe that they're more of an energy efficiency. They're all about improving efficiency and providing products that are better than the previous product, but also more efficient. And that's really what sets them apart from, I think, other companies, because you look at their challenges, like let's say Volkswagen, or let's say any other company that's trying to make other cars. Their main focus is on making cars. Other people making grid, they're just trying to make money off the grid. Tesla's trying to force this transition over to where all these other guys want to make electric cars, and all these other guys want to increase the reduce waste on the grid. Those are their big focuses. I think later on you'll kind of see a transition to industrial, commercial, and residential, but I think their two big focuses are going to be on transportation and electric. I don't think they're going to come out with an AC system. I'd love to be wrong, especially if it was like an industrial AC system that reduces energy waste. That'd be something pretty cool, or a commercial one. But I don't think that's the case. I think they're going to focus on these main two areas right here, and increasing the ratio of our energy use to the amount of energy that we waste every year. So like I said previously, this whole series is going to be all about going through Linden's handbook on batteries. So this kind of is the first part. This is more of an introduction to the channel. And as a whole, I kind of just want to introduce everybody to everything. I'm Ryan, by the way. And really, the next couple videos, I kind of have them all planned out. I'm working on them. They're all going to be kind of more technical about batteries than about everything. My background's in mechanical engineering. I don't really have a background in battery, but I'm trying to, seeing the way that this transition is starting to happen, I want to be active and available in this new coming kind of generation of technology. So to do that, I'm reading through this book to prepare myself, and I want to be able to take the information that I'm pulling out of here, and I want to be able to provide a lot of that to you guys. So I would really appreciate if you guys subscribe, support, Since I'm learning with this with a lot of you guys, feel free to, if you have any comments, if you have any maybe corrections you must allow in error, feel free to comment it on any of these upcoming videos, because we're all in here to try to learn and try to improve on our fundamental understanding of the technology. So thank you guys very much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe and like, and go ahead and have a great day, guys. Thank you very much.